Hello and welcome to the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship live on Apex Racing TV and live on the iRacing Esports Network. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick and alongside me for tonight's action is Brad Clank with Scott Newton on the cameras, and we're here for the third to final round of the championship, round 10 out of 12. We're here in Georgia, in Road Atlanta. It's one of the most popular circuits in the world, this, isn't it, Brad? And also, particularly GT racing, we have the Petit Le Mans, of course. So these guys will be very familiar with this 4-kilometer circuit.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Welcome, everybody. This is, as you were saying, a fantastic track. Seen some great racing here, and it's been made famous for lots of reasons, but more recently was used for some of the stunt action in the Ford vs Ferrari movie. If keen-eyed people have seen that, they might have recognised the approach down to the last chicane there. But I'm sure the guys here are going to put on a great super technical first sector. It's going to be definitely something to watch out for in the opening stages of the race.
I did not know that bit of trivia. That is some fantastic knowledge right there. But yeah, so you're right. Yeah, that first part of the lap, extremely technical, and then the second half of that, some fantastic overtaking opportunity. Such a popular championship. So we have to whittle down the order. We had about 70 drivers, I believe, 75 drivers doing pre-qualifying, and only the top half of those drivers managed to get onto the grid for this top split. And on pole position was Dominic Ferraris. He was the absolute fastest. Craig Edwards in second place. Aiden Luthwaite lines up in third. Then it's Nathan Huppert, Lee Vandenberg, Tom Huggan is top of the amateur drivers. Matt Morris is in seventh. Then it's Kane Ryder, Timothy Beeman, and Josh starts in 11th place. Then it's Steve Janssen in 12th. 13th is Dan Lobb. 14th, Trent Thompson. 15th, Harrison Sellers. Then it's Julian Clean Boosink, Andrew Dyson, Jason Dixon, then a lot of amateur drivers, Martin Crisp, Aaron Specchio, Adrian Block, Blake Delaney, Paul Wood, Nick Sanfilippo, Sean Stevens, Kenny Conamos, Brett Hender, Warren Pickering, Robert Hooper, Stephen Bartholomew, Aaron Dodd, Richard Hunter, Adrian Leetsy, Yarvin Woods, Brenton Hawkins, and Vaughan Ryder, rounding out this 36-car field as we get underway with this formation lap. We are getting into the closing stages of the championship, of course, Brad, and I'm just wondering, is that going to affect anyone's attitudes, particularly any big risk, because of course the season finale we had around this circuit last season was absolute chaos. Almost all the championship runners got involved in some madness. So this is a circuit where things could go very badly for you.
Yes,
absolutely dominant. But Craig Edwards has been very strong as well. Aiden Luthwaite there. I mean, who would you say are the kind of favourites for this race?
It's hard to say. I mean, we've got a good mix of cars up the front here, so it doesn't seem like there's a particular favourite as far as they've been competing for successive seasons in this championship. So I think we'll, I think it's just going to be very, very close and impossible.
It certainly is a possibility. As first on the pole position, good start for Luthwaite. I think he's straight away going to get past Craig Edwards. Good stuff as well for Matt Morris to get past Tom Huggan. A little bit further down the order, trying to retake that place now is Edwards. You know how important it is to keep that second place. However, it does seem as though further back there was Beeban and Ryder. And we've also got Harrison Sellers as well off the track, and that may have caused a little bit of a gap in the order. However, I'm seeing as the only driver who's come back in the pits at the moment, it says as we've got another off now, and that is hard into the wall for one of the BMWs, and almost skating back onto the circuit. Fortunately, gets the brakes on, but that could have been extremely dangerous. That was Blake Delaney or Andrew Dyson, I believe, getting into one another. As,
yeah, it's a congested opening sector there. It looks like we may have had a safety car called, have we?
Yeah, seems like everyone is going pretty slowly. Certainly would make sense. There is the safety car driven by Kester Mack. So that is the first safety car. I'm pretty sure we had Sellers towing back to the pits. I think Sellers was the only driver who towed back to the pits, actually. So despite that big hit into the wall for Delaney, or Dyson, I'm not sure which one it was, through the S's, I think it was actually Sellers. Pulling as we've now got Just come into the pit, so that's Luthwaite diving in straight away, and this tactic of coming in on the first lap has worked very well on the most part this season. We saw this situation at Sebring, I believe, earlier on this season, and also saw some controversy at Lime Rock and also Sonoma as well. I believe just last week we saw some interesting strategies. So the drivers, just for clarification, have to come into the pits at least once in this race. If you come in under the safety car, of course, you're pretty much getting your pit stop done without as much time lost. And that is the advantage that these drivers are trying to take at the moment. Coming out to the pits in first place is Craig Edwards. So Craig Edwards has jumped Aidan Luthwaite in the pit. So Edwards, who was in third place when the pace car came out, he is now ahead of Aidan Luthwaite, who came into the pits in second place. So that's quite an important change. But meanwhile, the top 15 all haven't pitted.
And we got a race control message there with no further action with one of those incidents we saw heading down through the first sector there. That's cars 713 and 941. I think that was Harrison Sellers and Andrew Dyson. No one being apportioned blame with that one.
Probably, possibly wisely so. Because we do use the Aussie Surfers. I mean, it's not unusual in other series. The famous Jake Blackhall, who runs in the AOLTC Championship, which I believe uses the European servers and constantly gets involved in clashes in that. But we are using the Aussie server, so a bit unusual that, as it seems like the whole train then has formed back up again. So yeah, all the drivers who have pitted then. So it's Edwards, Luthwaite, Hupperts, and Vandenberg. I mean, if you were in the car at this point, actually, I think we are going to have the safety car in this lap. I thought we would have another tour, actually, but it seems like that is all we need because, like I said, the entire field is back together, apart from maybe Andrew Dyson, who's a little bit detached from the rest of the order right at the back. But it's now up to Dominic Ferraris then, the race leader. He chose not to come into the pits, and he is going to have to set some stellar lap times to pull out a gap out in the lead. We are going to get back underway then for lap 3 of this Road Atlanta meeting in the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship. And we are back green flag racing. Big gaps all the way down the order, it seems. Big gap, particularly from the Jazz down from about 5th place down to 10th place. Really, 8/10 of a second separating all of them, which is really going to help the race leader. And it's a much less convoluted than it was last time. However, we have got Aaron Dodd and Stephen Bartholomew going a bit side by side, a little bit further down the order at the moment. But no, nice start for the race leader.
Yeah, it looks like most of the drivers pretty well behaved here on the restart. One thing I did notice there, Brenton Hawkins came into the lane just as the race went back to green, so that's a quite an unusual strategy to be pitting at the end of the safety car period.
All side by side, and in fact, we've actually got disqualification for Sellers because he's towed back without authorization from the stewards, as Joshua Thomas and Matt Morris are going side by side. Thomas, who started down in 10th place, wasn't a particularly good qualifying for him, and he's not going to be able to get past Morris on this occasion. Morris sticks with that move, and now the race has got a 2-second gap. Absolutely phenomenal from Ferraris.
Yeah, he got a great start in the original start to the race there, and then again on the restart he's really been able to time that well and get a jump. He definitely needs to try and get away and build a gap because he's got that train of cars further back started with Edwards that have already made their stop, so he has to make use of this clean track now while he has it.
And Edwards up 3 places already. There he is. The gap between 1st and 12th is 10.6 seconds. Ferraris will be stationary in his pit. Oh, we got a big off. Big off for Yarvin Woods. And I wonder, is that going to be another safety car? There he is. Oh, he's going to do well to get that one back. Oh, he's blowing the engine. Surely this is going to be another safety car. Unless, well, there's still some steam.
Still under power.
I don't know what's powering it, but something is. Oh, really, just, I mean, we're on the esports now, so I don't want to mention it too much, but once again, that kind of criticism of arguably the tire model with the slip angle, I don't know, that was, of course, elevation change on that point as well, but went away from him
Yeah,
so quick.
I think it was a combination of perhaps the cold tires on the restart, plus change of direction and elevation and a gear change all at the same time. So unfortunately, not a great outcome for that driver. But at the front of the race here, we've still got Morris, Thomas, and now Jansen on the back of Morris here. Thomas, sorry, and another train forming up just behind with Lob, Specchio, Sanfilippo, and
Oh, we got a car,
oh
and
no,
that could surely go and be a safety car because we've got a car in the middle of the circuit, and that is going to involve a lot of judges because it's a blind crest. Oh, guys, please slow
oh,
down, please slow down.
driver's
Oh, and
still
we've got
approaching
another
very
car
fast.
around now. Well, some of them have done a decent job, but it's so tricky in that situation. And, well, that's down lob. I think Edwards got involved in that one. Edwards, he was almost certainly an innocent party, and it started all with the South African who ran way too wide. Every single time we visit this circuit, we see an incident there. That was Vlok as well, who got into him just behind. And Edwards as well, he was about 12th place, I
Oh,
believe, at this point, and he's just kind of come in. I think he may have almost been kind of squared in, tried to go one way, but no chance. Martin Crisp as well, I think, was involved.
yeah, once you get too far wide over that curb, you actually got wheels into the gravel there in the rear of the car. There's no way you can save it once you get out that far. We've got some very wounded cars crabbing their way back to the pits here. This is definitely going to affect the strategy of Ferraris because he really needed it to stay green to build a gap there, and now he's going to have to bunch back up again, and be interesting to see if he tries to take this stop.
Doesn't seem like we're going to get a safety car then, despite all of that mess. Seems like we are going to stay green, seemingly. But first, now 3 seconds. So top of well, Luthwaite is now up to 7th place after that. He managed to get his way through. Mega unlucky for Craig Edwards. We saw a bit of a replay of it, and he was that car. He went one way and then was desperately trying to get on the brakes, but everyone just seems to be colluding into his racing line. So we've got a driver just a bit off the circuit. That would have been Yarvin Wood potentially, or maybe down off. Just going slightly off the track. But massive shame. So the gap between Ferraris and Luthwaite then is currently about 10 seconds. But this is looking very good for a race win now. But Aiden Luthwaite has got Nathan Huppert, so pretty close to the back of him. We're now going back to this battle for 10th place, involving, or 9th place even, involving Trent Thomas, Lee Vandenberg, Timothy Thieben, Kane Ryder, and Julian Clean Boostsink as well.
Yeah, it's a bit surprising there we didn't get the safety car, so Ferraris probably a little lucky there. He's been able to maintain that gap a little bit. He's still going to have to try and extend that as much as he can while he has clean air, because when he does make the stop, inevitably he's going to be back into some traffic there, because Luthwaite and Co have been able to, and it's definitely a gain for them. Still on board here with Thieben, and because he's just trying to pressure Lee Vandenberg up in front. There's two teammates here, and they might be trying to work together to close the gap to Thomas and Huppert's in front.
Oh, here he goes, and Thieben will be able to get past that. That was a little bit orchestrated, seemingly not much defense put up whatsoever by Lee Vandenberg, and Thieben will now try to chase after Thomas up the road. Luthwaite, I think, has had well, I think that's a slowdown for Luthwaite. You could just see him in the foreground for a moment, just really slow, seemingly on the inside of the track. So I imagine he's cut the course somewhere as we get the weather up on the screen. 24 degrees track temperature, so pretty cool. Might take a little while for the drivers to warm up their tyres. However, once they are warm, they should be able to stay in a very good operating window for the rest of the race. And now Luthwaite. In fact, Luthwaite lost out to Huppert, and Luthwaite's lost out again. And Luthwaite's in the wall. Oh dear, what an awful half a lap for Aiden Luthwaite, who got himself into the effective race lead. He was ahead of Hutputz. He's picked up a slowdown though at the end of the last lap, and now he has spun it by himself. And a very
think
strong chance that a race win has gone away, and we've got a safety car because of it. Oh, it's a hardware failure.
Yeah, that looks like equipment failure, doesn't it?
I wonder if we could get, as we've now got a couple of drivers in, so Ferraris is in, Morris is in. Now these guys are going to lose the lead. So this will put Hutputz up into the lead. Well, Thomas has stayed out. I don't want to be harsh to Joshua Thomas, but I seriously doubt this for him and Steve Jansen is going to work out. I see no way that this is possibly going to work for them. But they've stayed out seemingly. Hutputz will take the lead then, and Ferraris is dropping down now outside the top 20. Ferraris is stationary for a very long time. I think Ferraris may have, well, 20 seconds stationary for Ferraris, which is about 8 seconds longer than everyone else, which is a strange one. Maybe he was taking maybe 3 tires or something like that. But there you can see the smoking car of Luthwaite on the inside of the track.
Yeah, that's unusual from Ferraris in the stop there, because given these safety cars, there'd be very, very little need to put fuel in the car. So most of these drivers would just be doing really quick splash and dash to fulfill the mandatory stop requirement. So perhaps he thought his strategy had already been compromised a little bit with the way the safety cars played out, and he might think that the some new tyres could be the way to cut through the field. We'll have to keep an eye out on it. It's definitely going to be entertaining, that's for sure.
As we're going to get a then a replay of what happened on the opening lap of the race. And safety car apparently is going to be in on this lap. So yeah, that was how we had a change of position for second and third. I think that was Morris moving up into second place. But that was very much a while ago now for him, as we are about to get back under green, I believe. And it will be Joshua Thomas from the pole position. Steve Jansen in second place. Well, I'm skeptical of this decision because the top two still have to come into the pits. But Hutputz has got to be careful from Trent Thomas behind as we are back underway. 2 safety car periods, but on lap 10 we are under green flag, then at Road Atlanta, and similar to what we saw last time, the drivers getting into single file very early on, not many moves. Martin Crisp under a bit of pressure from Graydon Nash, but it doesn't seem like Crisp was, well, it seems like Crisp has been able to hang on to that place. There is Nash. There's not much of an overtaking opportunity there in these very wide BMW M8s. And he does have to stay behind Dominic Ferraris, former race leader. Pole sitter, of course, down in 17th position at the moment after these pit stops.
Yeah, just on board with Martin here. You can see, I think that's Braden Nash just behind. He got very, very close heading up through turn 5, but got a little wide. Drop back a bit and trying to tuck into the slipstream here, get a run up this backstretch down into the chicane.
Doesn't seem like he's going to be close enough for a move. Crispy was running in the Canadian esports series, and I don't want to call out Martin at all, but I did see a message in the in that Discord channel about how he got a penalty, which is very unlike Martin because he's very consistent. But he getting himself involved in something there. He's really had to pressure though from Nash. Remember, this is a amateur driver versus a pro driver. The on many occasions in this series. The amateurs are the amber or the orange, and then we've also got the red for the rookies. However, I don't believe there are any rookies in this split today because there are 2 splits, and I believe they are all in the second split. Anyway, Hutputz. Well, this is a bit strange, isn't it? Because the top 2 are yet to pit, and Nathan Hutputz, the effective race leader, but he's struggling to keep up with them at the moment.
Yeah, there's a few strange things happening at the moment. Just with the way that the carnage and the safety cars and pit stop strategies have played out, we've got these front two that haven't stopped. But then after that, the following 7 cars are all BMWs, and we had a good mix of cars at the front of the race when we took the green. So there's another train of BMWs from 11th through to 14th as well. So a predominantly BMW field in the top 15, which is quite bizarre, as that's not how it began.
Yeah, it's been much better this season than it was last season. Actually, we've got the Apex Racing League GT Championship coming up this evening for Europeans, and I imagine for you Aussies it'll be quite an annoying time, but will be a 19 GMT actually. And in that series, there's a really good mix. The BMWs are actually relatively low in usage. I think it's the Ferrari, dare I say, which is the highest usage. But the BMW is relatively low, which is a bit of a strange situation because in this series, the BMW is still very popular. Of course, do have fixed setups in this series, so the organisers do have a bit more control over the balance of performance. But yeah, the BMW still seems to be the car to go to. Yeah, out of 56 entries in the GT Championship, only 8 are BMWs, and yet in this series, they're extremely popular. Perhaps just the most drivable car, to be fair. So now we've got a Born Rider, and he's really racing hard at the moment with a couple of cars ahead. There was a Dominic Barras as well, just in front of him. Unlapping was Dan Lobb, who of course was doing very well earlier on. And Ryder, in fact, dropping a couple of places now. He's going to drop into 18th, I think.
But yeah, there's quite a few big movers in the race with the unpredictable events we've had in the early stages. We've got so Warren Pickering is currently P9. He's up 19 positions. He's
Oh,
actually up
Trent
20 now.
Thomas from
Oh no!
second place. Effectively, Trent Thomas is another one. He was binned it after Luthwaite binned it in a few laps ago, and now it's Thomas. You seem to have the legs on Hubbard's. Dare I say, he was even the favourite for this race win, but he took too much curb. He's lost it very early on, and there's contact as well with I think that's Ryder. That may have been Kane Ryder. I'm not quite sure. He was
I
the
think it might
driver
have
who
been
hit him.
Phoeben.
Oh, good shout actually. Yeah, Phoeben, who's dropped a few places because of that. So Thomas will be able to continue. Oh, but what a shame for Trent Thomas, who drops back down into 15th place. And once again, Road Atlantis delivering. The season finale from last season was quite exhilarating, but this is properly rivaling it today, because we've had so many different drivers at the front, and it means that, of course, Thomas and Janssen still yet to pit. Then it's Huppert, but Berg is up into 4th position and is next in line to take off Huppert if he can catch up to Huppert.
Yeah, it was definitely an unusual incident, that one.
Oh, he's now off.
That's Lee Vandenberg very, very wide on the exit of 5. But yeah, the previous incident there was quite unusual because it was actually on the entry into 5, which we usually see trouble on the exit of that corner, not on the entry. So, but yeah, we're kind of seeing a bit of everything here tonight, and we've not even halfway through the race. So hopefully the guys can settle down now.
Oh,
Ferraris
Morris
has worked.
and Thomas.
Oh,
Oh no, 2 of the drivers who were fighting for the high positions. Morris was as high as 2nd place earlier on, and he's losing loads of time. And I wonder if Thomas has been involved in another incident here. So here it was 2 drivers who this should be a battle for the race win, not for 15th place. And well, is that net code again? I don't know. That looks a little bit weird. Morris is getting spun around.
yeah, it's just a little touch from behind, perhaps. Maybe he wasn't expecting Morris to be on the brakes quite as early as he was.
That does seem to be contact then.
Yeah, Morris definitely won't be happy with that. He had to wait a long time for the queue to go past to rejoin safely. Thankfully, he did that with respect to the other competitors.
You could see Daniel Leitz in the YouTube chats, who would normally be commentating on this. Hopefully he's I hope he's all right. I'd like to know what he's thinking of this race. I don't know how much he's seen so far, but it's been pretty fun to watch up to this point. And I mean, like you were saying, Brad, we're only halfway through this race. And I keep on mentioning it, but honestly, last season's season finale around this place was remarkable, as Trentos has got a penalty then. So from fighting for the lead, he's going to do well to finish in the top 20 now, as Thomas. As
This is
Dyson,
Dyson on
like,
crisp.
yeah, that was easy enough.
Yeah, he actually gets that done quite easily. Or he does go a little deep into 10B, but he's able to pull it up and make that move. We've got Adrian just losing a spot there. That's Sanfilippo is just making that move. So almost a carbon copy of what we'd just seen earlier. Just quickly retouch on the point we were making before we had a bit more incidents there. So you had Warren Pickering's up 20 positions. Adrian is up 17 on where he started, and Vaughan Ryder, who's just behind, is up 19 positions. So they're the three that have really kept their noses clean through all the carnage so far, and used the safety car strategy to their advantage early in the race.
Yeah, it was certainly the right decision to come into the pits under the first safety car, and I mean, I like the changing of strategy, but in this series, you got to think when there's a safety car, the first safety car, you come into the pits. Absolutely no question about it. That is the fastest way to the finish because you get the free safety car, and Furiaris tries something different, but you can see where he is now, 13th place, trying to get past Martin Chris, so will be up to 12th place. But Furiaris, I think arguably the fastest driver out here today, and yet he's absolutely nowhere on the grid because he did not come into the pits under the first safety car, which is absolutely pivotal. So the drive's still very much learning that because we did see about 15 drives stay out, as we've actually got a move just behind as well. That is Dixon and Crisp. Dixon trying to get past Crisp. However, that's a good defense right there from Martin. Stay ahead of the elite driver. And yeah, just stay in 13th place for now. They've got about 5 seconds back to San Filippo as well. Out in the lead, by the way, Joshua Thomas still ahead of Steve Janssen, 2 seconds separating them. They're about matching Nathan Huppert's now in third. Kane Ryder in fourth position, but remember the top two still need to come to the pits. We're expecting them to come in at about the half an hour mark, I imagine. So they'll try to extend the gap. They are currently well, if they pitted now, they'd lose about 30 seconds, I think. So they come out in about 24th at the moment, but their lap times are strong. They're lapping about a second a lap faster than those drivers. So they might be able to pit and come out in maybe 24th place, I reckon, if they can really nail these next few laps.
Well, given the amount of safety car we've had, they may be able to stretch that out really close to the end and just do a splash right before the end to spend as little time as possible in traffic. So I don't know, we'll be interested to see if these two follow each other in the lane or they try something different. But Huppets is definitely in the box seat at the moment, sitting there in P3, but he's got a
Wow. Speciate, and that was with, I saw a couple of drivers drop down. Vaughan Ryder, I think he collided with that. Oh, there we go.
yeah. Yeah, the driver in the Ford that came through there just had absolutely nowhere to go. So down the back stretch here, we've got this is Paul Wood in this gaggle of cars here. We've got BMWs looking down to the inside. Oh, it's a little tight on the second part of the chicane, but he's able to get through and make that move. So it's well done by Paul there. He is up 7 positions on where he started.
Yeah, so we're up into 16th place. Stevens and Hooper and Henter all very close behind. Here we go back to Ryder and Berg. Remember, Berg was ahead of Ryder until he made a mistake at the top of the crest earlier on. Was a very nice move from Kane Ryder around this part of the track to overtake him. But this is a long chain now, and in fact, Ryder is 4 seconds behind Huppert. And Huppets really didn't seem that convincing earlier on. Didn't qualify on the front row of the grid, did Huppet. So Ryder just not quite with the pace at the moment. They start in 8th place, up a few places as here comes Berg down the inside. Now Ryder seemingly wanting to have the outside line. He hasn't defended this one too much. He'll stick around the outside because they'll turn into the inside for 10B. But the 763 car with the
Oh,
better
three wide.
getting down the inside of the pair, then nearly that was I think over aggressive there from Clean Boosting. That move was really never on. And Beeben as well, right with these drives. But this battle goes all the way back to Braden Nash in 10th place. This could all change in the remaining 12 minutes. But what this isn't helping is their battle catching up to Nathan Huppert, who now has a 5-second lead over these guys.
Nathan's been able to just enjoy the clean air pretty much in that gap up front, and he doesn't have to worry about the two cars ahead of him because they're going to have to stop. So he's just been working on being consistent, and the other drivers behind have had that battle, which is a bit with side-by-side action into some of the slower corners. You can see the train in the distance there in the back of the shot. So, but now he may have to worry a little more. He's got Lee Vandenberg at the front of that train, and we've seen Lee very strong in this series. So he's having to go defensive here though against Ryder. Felt the need to go in and cover the inside.
So Vandenberg getting past Ryder there. I don't think we saw that one, but he is up into effective 2nd place. Also Clean Boosting. That is him defending against Beeben. So Beeben trying to get past. Of course, Beeben was so unlucky earlier on because we saw the spin for Thomas, and Beeben, when Thomas spun, Beeben had to get on the brakes. Hence why he's further down. He really ought to be at the head of this chain, but instead he dropped about 4 places on that occasion. I really feel as though if that wasn't the case for Beeben, I think he'd be battling with Huppert right now and well clear of these drives, but instead, yeah, had to get on the brakes. He's right in the midst of this battle, Pickering with a poor exit, and now Braden Nash, who's actually got ahead of Tom Huggan, and also Dominic Ferraris. Remember him? Pole sitter, former race leader, and he has romped up to the back of these guys. On that last lap, he was about a second faster than a few of these drivers. That was 3 seconds faster than Huggan, but I mean, he was a second faster than Clean Boosting, for example, in 6th place, and he is right onto the tail, and he'll be loving the sight of this. It really should have been a race win, at least a podium for Ferraris. This could yet turn into a podium because we can see 2nd place just a few moments ahead of him as he takes another chunk of time out of these drivers as Thomas is into bits and Huppert is off the track. Huppert is in the wall. Not Huppert. That's Janssen from 2nd position. Janssen, who still was yet to pit, and he's made a mistake at the final corner. Let's see a replay of how it happened. He came up over the crest, and has he dipped a wheel onto the grass? Yes, he has, and spins it round.
I thought it might have been a failed pit entry and got through the gap in the wall, but no, it just dropped it on the last corner.
Oh, we got a slow car, the 338, and that is just a back marker, letting everyone pass. Who was that? That was Born Rider, just letting the drivers pass. Born Rider and Kane Rider. I can't remember if we decided if they were related. Were they related, Scott? So I'm now asking the man in our ears whether they were. Apparently they are brothers. Apparently they are brothers. Hopefully if we get an interview with Kane, we can clear this up once and for all until next week when I inevitably forget. So now we've got the proper order of this race. Thomas, by the way, came back out in 16th place. That is impressive for Joshua Thomas. I thought he was going to drop outside the top 20, but it was only a 10.5 second pit stop. So he stays in 15th, does Joshua Thomas, just moving past, in fact, as Janssen finally comes into the pits after that crash, but his days are pretty much over.
Yeah, it just comes in as we see Thomas going past. So that's who Joshua there. So it looks like Joshua's up into 14th, being able to make his way past Wood just on that previous lap. And he's got a bit of clean air in front. Looks like about a 5-second gap up to Sanfilippo. So he's got a bit of work to do if he wants to make up any more positions in the next 13 or so minutes. Ferraris is up to P8. He's got past Huggan. So we have the train of 7 BMWs, and then Ferraris in 8th, the first Ford.
Yeah, it's probably worth going back to that battle. Just about on board with Wood at the moment. But I think Thomas will probably be able to pull away from Wood. We've also got Craig Edwards marching off the circuit, but he's back on the circuit. In fact, he's just been lapped. Jeez, Craig Edwards has been lapped now by these drivers after running in, I think it was second place at one point, qualified in second place. Did Edwards? Yeah, sign on the front row of the grid, and he's down in 27th place. I mean, he dropped it by himself. Really could have been a race win. Could have been a race win for so many drivers, but well, that's everyone will be able to say that, I'm sure. Oh, Theban's dropped it. Nash has dropped it. Sorry, Theban was ahead of him, and Braden Nash is another casualty at the end of the S's.
Yeah, I think that was Pickering in front, who got a little bit out of shape coming down the S's, and I think Nash was really close to him heading into turn 5 there. Perhaps a little bit of aero wash contributing to that one.
Oh, we might have a change for second place here. Berg going to the inside. Ryder with the momentum on the outside. It seems like whoever is following out of these two drivers seems to have the pace advantage. Around the outside goes the purple car and has the inside for 10B. It's not the better exit, and this is just going to put the others onto them. So Clean Boosting and Theban right back onto these drivers, and also Ferraris will nearly be with them. Pickering as well, after struggling seemingly before Pickering. He's been able to control himself a little bit since then, but no changes remarkably, but they're just getting closer and closer, now 6 seconds behind the race leader. Oh, Lee van den Berg is off the circuit. That is going to be super slow for him here, and once again they're so close to one another through the S's, but no way of overtaking around this part of the track. To the wall, and he's going to spin back onto the circuit. That's going to involve a couple of other drivers. Fortunately, they always seem to ghost through him, and van den Berg somehow gets it in a straight line. Not sure if he'll be able to limp that car back to the pits, but Ryder moves up into second place, almost contact with Clean Boosting. Berg is still off the circuit. I think he might be towing back to the pits potentially. No, he's back. Oh, well, we'll keep an eye on it anyway. But Clean Boosting up into third, Theban fourth. I don't think there are any other changes, but there must have been big contact, surely, with Pickering or Ferraris, who came across the flying van den Berg, who had already run wide a couple of times. There goes Ferraris down the inside, and he makes contact. He's gone into the back of Theban when he was making the move, I think, on Pickering, and that is a massive mistake there, seemingly, from the pole sitter. Theban gets back going in 7th place. Ferraris, though, dropping down to 12th now. Let's see a replay of it. I think he's just gone into this corner way too deep. I think he's absolutely pummeled Theban. Oh, poor Theban. I mean, to be fair to Ferraris, he was still going to make the corner, but Theban's so much early on the brakes with the concertina effect, and Ferraris comes into the pits. What could have been for him? The pole sitter, the former race leader, but he didn't pit under the first safety car, and ever since then, it was an uphill task.
Yeah, it's definitely putting yourself into a dangerous position when you got to try and work your way through a train of cars like that, and easy to make a mistake. Unfortunately, Theban, really, there's nothing he could have done to avoid that from behind there, but fortunately he is able to continue, and he is still in that 7th position there, so not day done. He's still in a decent points paying position, and as long as he doesn't suffer too much with that damage, he should be able to hold on to a top 10.
Yeah, he should be alright. I mean, to be fair, that car doesn't look too bad, but the chance of a podium for Theban has broken up that big battle. Tom Huggan now is up into 5th place. He was just at the back of that big chain. He's been at the back of that chain for the whole time, but he's up into 5th. And he's on the tail of Warren Pickering. And I'm just wondering, has Pickering got a bit of damage? He has got certainly some front end damage. Meanwhile, Huggins' car is absolutely fine. And this could be a long final few minutes. We've still got 8 more minutes of this race to go. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we get another safety car, to be honest, because we've seen so much so far. And Huggin really has a chance of 4th place, which would help out his chances of the amateur amateur championship. We've also got Ryder and Clean Boosting still battling for 2nd and 3rd place. You can see that on the side so you can check out the live timing link in the description below, which will have all the intervals between the drivers and their last lap time, their best lap time. When they came into the pits, their pit stop length. So certainly to check that out as well. That's where about SDK Gaming in the description below, as Huggin is getting massively down the straights, and I think Warren Pickering is really struggling with that aero damage.
Yeah, it's damage at the front of the car is definitely going to hamper his efforts, and that forward's pretty sleek in a straight line. You can see just how much lower it is than the BMW as he heads down the inside, just trying to have a look into turn 1. Pickering's still able to hold on there, so he's not going to just give it away. And we've got Julian all over the back of Ryder in P2 there, and this is Nash trying to recover after that incident we saw earlier at turn 5, and he's trying to work his way up past Martin Crisp. So even some of these drivers inside the top 10 have had incidents here this evening, and they're still still looking at some solid results. So it gives you an idea of just how troublesome and technical this track is. I think that turn 5 probably deserves a little bit more respect than it gets. We've got corners at Montreal, like Wall of Champions and places like that, but this turn 5 here at Road Atlanta, it almost needs a name something like that, I think, because so many drivers come unstuck there.
Yeah, it's one of the most common places we see crashes on Apex Racing TV, and I'm sure on the esports network as well. Here comes Nash past Chris, who has been very consistent as Martin, but no point in fighting that battle, which he is inevitably going to lose anyway, so that's an easy move straight through. Huggin, this is dangerous times for Huggin. I know, I was thinking with the pace that Pickering's got, but Pickering's actually lapping decently quick. He did a 17.6, that's only 2 tenths fast, 2 tenths slower than the race leader. So it's the aerodynamics is affecting him a bit, but it's not writing off his chances at the moment. Behind them, I think that's Block, but he's a lap down, is Adrian Block. It is Block, in 25th place, but don't worry about Adrian, who was involved in a big crash earlier on. You wouldn't know because that car is absolutely clean as anything, but must have used his fast repair earlier on. The Fordzilla driver, appropriately using the Ford, unlike many of their other team members. But we've got we can see a close battle here. Blake Delaney is now battling with Aaron Dodd and Brett Hender. This is the battle for 16th place. Hender up 11 places. And if anything, it's Delaney who I think is the more likely to be overtaken.
Yeah, I believe Hender actually got a penalty earlier in the race too, so it gives you an idea of just how crazy it's been. He's up 11 positions on his from where he was on the grid, but I believe he had to serve a drive-through earlier in the race from one of those incidents we saw during the opening laps. That's a nice bit of driving there from Delaney, although side by side, a little bit of contact up under the bridge, and it's Dodd able to get through there.
Yeah, Dodd up another place up to 17th. He's up 14 places is Aaron Dodd. The highest gainer is Warren Pickering in 4th place, up 24 over I think that's starting place for Pickering. Don't know why he's so far down. Not sure if we'll get into with him because he's not on the podium. Certainly do stick around for that, the podium interviews after the race. I think it'll be very insightful for what we've seen. Clean Boosting is really close to Ryder, just going down into the chicane. I was just thinking we might see a move. I wonder if Clean Boosting's just waiting for an overtaking, or just waiting till maybe a little bit later on in the race when he makes that move, because seems like the slipstream effect around this circuit, because you've got the long back straight, you've got this part of the circuit as well, all the way from the chicane to turn 1, where you can really just dip into the drafts, and it seems like whoever's following has the pace advantage, so I wonder if he'll leave that till the final lap. Also, Dixon with a late move. That was from nowhere from Dixon, and Phoeben did well to leave some space on the inside. I think that's Phoeben actually gets him past Dixon. No, actually on that last lap, they were pretty much matching one another. So Phoeben's struggling to pull away after that spin he had earlier on. And Braden Nash as well is right with these drivers after spinning at this corner earlier on.
Yeah, I think Phoeben's just been struggling a little bit after the touch contact that we saw earlier. It doesn't look like much damage on the car, but I think perhaps the in the iRacing physics world, he's got a bit of damage to the splitter at the back of that car. I can see the front left corner's crumpled a little bit too, which might be hampering his efforts. But yeah, Nash able to get the move done there. He's gonna have to try and hold this around the outside and get the inside for the second part of the chicane here. So quite often drivers are able to defend that position by staying to the outside lane, as he was able to there. So some good driving there by Braden to consolidate that position. He's still going to be under a bit of pressure though, because Dixon definitely doesn't want to let him have it too easily.
No, that was a very solid move though in the end from Braden Nash. Move up into 8th, just recovering as many points as possible. Unfortunately, I don't have the championship points in front of me, so we'll make sure that we get them for the penultimate round of the championship. I believe he's probably in the fight as Nash for the overall title. And here we are. Clean Beasting has got ahead of Ryder. That is a change of position. We've got one more lap to go after this one. And so, Clean Basic maybe has just waited and made his move at the important time. However, we've got quarter of a second between the two of them. Who has got the better straight line speed? In fact, Ryder's really catching up in the tow. I think they've pretty much got the same straight line speed. Well, they are running the same setup and the same car, of course. Around the outside goes the Max Boost Racing driver. He gets the cutback as we are going to be moving on to the last tour of this Road Atlanta circuit. Huppets is on lap 34. And just jumping a little bit further back now is Ryder. He's going to do well to catch back up. As long as he's close, going onto the back straight, he's going to have a good chance.
Yeah, we'll see how we go here. Regardless of what happens, as long as these drivers don't make considerable contact, looks like Fusion are going to have 3 cars in the top 4. So it's definitely been a good night for that team. And Julian's just trying to put the head down here and pull a little gap to Ryder so that he's not susceptible to the tow along the back stretch here. And all important exit from this corner, the run up straight away. We see Julian move across to the right hand side, try and break the tow at the start of the straight.
Yeah, good exit for Ryder. Right, the eyes on this for, it will be in the background certainly with Clean Beasting and Ryder, but out in the lead, Nathan Hupperts, he nailed the strategy. He's been able to pull away, and Nathan Hupperts wins round 10 of the Aussie Mixed and Picks GT Championship. Clean Beasting has had a spin at the chicane. Ryder will take 2nd place. Pickering will end up on the podium with a superb 4th for Tom Hagen, but Clean Beasting is still very slow. It looks like so Dixon and Nash will be close across the line. Clean Beasting has come home in 7th place. Meanwhile, Matt Morris with a stunning move right at the end. I think that may have been on 2 drivers, on Delaney and Hender, right at the last. And Matt Morris will cover a 16th place after starting up on the 2nd row of the grid. But we're going to have to get a replay, I think, of that incident just a moment ago with Clean Beasting and Ryder, and see if there might even be a post-race penalty as well, if it was Ryder's fault. So this is a little bit earlier on in the lap, but so Clean Beasting was really closing in a lot. In fact, this was a while back. This was about 10 laps previous when Clean Beasting originally made that move. And yeah, we'll check. Yeah, we'll try to find it. So this is on, in fact, this is, yeah, on lap 33. So Clean Boosink at this point ahead of his rival, and it was a fantastic exit seemingly from Ryder, which brought him into play out of this corner.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we just cut away just before this incident unfolded. There was definitely a lot happening there at the end with that move from Morris, and I think I also saw Craig Edwards in the wall across the line. So not sure if we'll get a glimpse of that, but here we go. We've got Ryder. So Julian decides to go to the inside to try and defend there. Oh, he doesn't. It's interesting. I'll tell you that'll be looked at by race control. There's not a lot of room left there for Ryder. And they didn't make contact. It wasn't heavy contact, but unfortunately Julian ends up facing in the wrong direction. And that looks like Phoeben just able to slide through and take that position at the end there.
And there was
that was actually, I think that was Edwards into the wall over the line there.
Not happy with his car. We'll be happy to see that thing set alight, I imagine. So that is everyone comes to line. We can go to the final order then for this round 10 of the of season 11 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship, and it is another race victory then for Nathan Huppert. He wins out ahead of Kane Ryder. Warren Pickering ends up in third place, up 25 places for Pickering. Tom Huggin, you can see top of the amateur drivers. Superb performance from the XRC driver in fourth place. There's Andrew Dyson, Timothy Phoeben, Julian Clean Boosink, Braden Nash, Jason Dixon, Martin Crisp, and Martin Crisp rounding out the top 10. Joshua Thomas with that late pit stop. It ended up being 11th place for him. He should be happy with that soon. He should take that and run with it, Thomas, because it was a bad strategy for Thomas. I don't know what he was thinking. But still, 11th place is not too bad. There's Nick Sanfilippo, Robert Hooper, Paul Wood, Sean Stevens, Matt Morris, Blake Delaney, Brett Hender, Aaron Dodd, and Trent Thomas. Then there's Adrian Lighty, Steven Janssen, Lee Vandenberg, what could be for Vandenberg, running as high as second place. Stephen Bartholomew, Adrian Vlock, Craig Edwards starting on the front row of the grid, but dropped it by himself. Richard Hunter, Kenny Konomos, Brinson Hawkins, and Dan Lobb. That was all the finishers, and many of them were many laps down. The proper retirees were Dominic Ferraris, Paul Sitzer. What could have been? Vaughan Ryder was in place second. There was Aaron Specchier, Yarvin Wood, Aidan Luthwaite. He was running in second place at one point. He binned it. Kester Mack was in the safety car. He beat Harrison Sellers in the end. There you can see the pace car driver, Kester Mack, beating Specchier and Sellers for laps completed. Specchier, I don't know why Specchier is there on the. That's a glitch on our screen. 16 laps, so he should be ahead of those drivers, but there he is. So interviews then with drivers, and well, there's only one man we can have a chat with first, and that man is Nathan Huppert, who is in the commentary booth with us now, race winner today. Nathan, congratulations. I mean, that race was really made in the first 10 minutes, wasn't it? I mean, when the safety car came out, was there any doubts in your mind to come into the pits? Because it divided opinion a lot.
Oh, yeah, look, obvious thing to do, I think, at that point. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, it was great to get the win. Just came in, pitted for fuel, was a bit conservative on fuel. I had too much at the end, so when the second safety car came out, I had my foot on the throttle burning fuel to lighten the car a bit, but yeah, just had to stay out of trouble.
And then I think, who was it? Was it Luthwaite in front of you, who I think spun, and then at that point you're pretty much in the lead of the race, I believe.
Yeah, I think I was following Aidan and Craig Edwards, my teammate, and there was an accident in front of us. We met, Aidan and I managed to. We just chose left. Craig unfortunately went to go around the right and got caught up. And yeah, I just kept following Aidan, and he had I think he had a slowdown coming out of the last corner because he slowed right down on the pit straight. Maybe it was a hardware failure. I'm not really sure, but after that, yeah, I had a bit of pressure from from Trent behind. Then he made a mistake and just kept it steady pace to the end.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it was a hardware failure in the end for that drive. So yeah, it was a little bit of a shame that that battle was denied. But you just seem to be able to pull away. I mean, how hard were you pushing near the end? Because there are so many mistakes from drivers, from properly good drivers who are going for the championship, but you didn't seem to make any mistakes out there. I mean, was there something to do with your driving, which you think just allows you to avoid making those errors?
It's definitely not my talent. I think it was a bit of luck. So, no, I had my fair share of mistakes. The last couple of rounds, had equipment failure between the years at Sonoma, and that cost me pretty badly in the race. So, yeah, I just went into this one relaxed. I set a decent quality time. I knew that'd be important here because you need to try and keep out of trouble in the pack. And yeah, just really wanted to have a clean race, so I didn't really approach it like a sprint race. I pushed a bit to try and get away from Trent in that middle part of the race, but after I had a 4 or 5 second gap, yeah, I was definitely cruising a little bit towards the end.
And what is the situation in the championship? I believe you won the title last season. What were your chances of winning the title this season?
No, yeah, didn't win last season. I think I came second in the endurance championship last season.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not sure where I am in the points. I might have been second coming into this round behind Tim Phoeben, I think. So don't know what happened with Tim. It might have been unfortunate for him because he was really stuck in a battle by the looks of it, and really unfortunate for Craig to get knocked out because he had great pace, and Aiden as well. You know, that's just bad luck for those guys because they were quick. I think they had the wood on me actually if they had have kept their cars clean.
Well, certainly was a fantastic performance from you there, Nathan. Congratulations on the race win. Is there anyone you'd like to thank before we say goodbye?
Yeah, look, shout out to you guys for the commentary, and it's a great league that Ryan runs, so great fun to be involved with and super competitive, having fixed setups and 60, 70, even 100 drivers sometimes in each round. It's great competition. Yeah, big shout out to Fusion Sim Racing. Well done to Warren, who came third. I think he started in the 20s somewhere, so that was a huge effort. And yeah, thanks to our sponsors, Eclipse Signage, Dripping Paint Graphics, and Daryl Carter Plastering.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Nathan, and best of luck for next week.
Great, thanks guys, see ya.
That was your race winner then for Fusion Sim Racing, Nathan Huppert. Brad, you're standing by with Kane Ryder.
Yeah, hi Kane, welcome to the Apex commentary booth, and congratulations on P2 there. Quite an eventful end to the race, but the whole race was quite eventful really. Somehow you managed to make your way through all of that and find yourself in a pretty intense battle there at the end.
Yeah, it was just a matter of keeping out of the way of those cars coming off. It was more of those cars coming off that got me up there but I'll take it. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame at the end there with Julian. We were having a good old tussle there, and yeah, like I didn't even get a 0x on that one, so yeah, it's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, it didn't look like a very heavy contact. Were you expecting him to defend the inside there, or because quite often we've seen drivers hold the outside there, and then they'd have the advantage into the second part of the chicane?
Yeah, well, we'd done it a couple of times previous in the races, and he'd always take the inside, and he'd always seem to get that run out of the second part, and I could never keep the power out and keep it stuck. So, look, yeah, I knew he was going to go for it, but I just thought, look, I'm going to make it hard for him, and unfortunately, we had a contact, but it definitely was my intention. So,
no worries. Yeah, once again, congratulations on the podium finish. We're going to round out the series with basically two kind of street races. With Montreal has a bit of a street track feel, and then Detroit to close it out. What do you feel about those two races coming up?
Look, I haven't raced them much. I've only just really come back from up to iRacing. So look, I've had a little go at Bell Island. I think is that one of the tracks with them? And yeah, that seems full on. Yeah, it seems full on. So yeah, that'll be interesting for sure. Should be all about where you qualify, I think.
Yeah, no worries. Well, we wish you all for those races. And is anyone you want to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Just Max Boost Racing. And look, if there's any driver looking for a team, we're always willing to talk to them. So.
Well, once again, thanks for joining us in the commentary booth, and hopefully you can join us up here again one time in the future, and we'll see you next time out.
Yep. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Kane Ryder there for Max Boost Racing, finishing in second place today. Our final interview is going to be with Warren Pickering. He started this race in 28th position, ends up on the podium though. Warren, congratulations. I mean, a lot of things had to happen for that to occur, for that podium, but it was still a superb drive.
Thanks, boys. First time listener, long time caller. Long time listener, first time caller. Good to be here. Yeah, 28th to 3rd, I'm pretty happy with.
So, there's a lot to discuss, but let's start from the start. I believe you came into the pits under the first safety car. That must have got you up quite a few places, but it also must have been a very good first lap for you as well. And you managed to avoid the incidents as well in that first lap, because I think there was a shunt around the place that you were starting, but you must have just missed it.
Yeah, well, perfect summary, exactly. Coming up over the hill first lap was just carnage. There was cars facing backwards, and somehow I just threaded the needle and made a bunch of spots at that point. Safety car came out, pit then. Obviously, the better strategy is to pit under safety car. So I did it not knowing there'd be another one later, which probably would have been a bit better. But yeah, and I got the pit stop out of the way. Managed to avoid quite a few more incidents. But yeah, it's just I've had pretty good race pace, so I knew if I just kept plodding away, it'd keep coming. And as the track was actually pretty slippery in some unusual places, it wasn't very gripped up. So there were some incidents around me, and I just capitalised on them, and yeah, really got lucky more than anything else.
Of course, fighting for such high positions, did you find yourself being more aggressive than normal, thinking I've got to seize this opportunity, or were you actually a bit more cautious, if anything, kind of thinking of what you had to lose? I mean, what was your mindset?
It's a good question. I was probably less aggressive. I was actually a little bit tentative, especially when I was, I think I was about 8th and really holding on to the group from kind of 4th, and I thought I might be in for a top 5 kind of thing, and I, just wanted to consolidate a bit, and then getting towards the end and a few more incidents, and I just, I started really concentrating on hitting my markers and putting in some good laps. I had a lot of pressure from Tom Huggin from behind, so I had a great battle with him and just managed to hold him off at the end.
Of course, you had a bit of damage by the end of the race. How much was that affecting your straight line speed? It seemed to affect you a bit, but your lap times were still very good.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was Dom put it up the inside of me at turn 10A, and he just overcooked it. He was GP had full draft. I don't know what speed he had, but yeah, he was a few car lengths late, and with the extra speed, went on to hit Phoeben in front of me, and I got caught up in that. Got a bit of front end damage, but no suspension damage. So I think it was just aero. So yeah, I was expecting it to be worse, and I took a lap and a half, a bit tentative, but it was okay. It was down a bit, but it felt fine. So I just pushed on. So I got away with that. Lucky, really.
Awesome. Well, once again, congrats on a fantastic podium. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we say goodbye?
Yep, Nathan's probably done it, but yeah, the guys at Eclipse Signage, Dripping Paint Graphics, and D Carter Plastering.
Awesome. Thanks for having a chat with us, Warren, and hope to see you back in the commentary booth nice and soon.
That'd be good. Thanks, boys.
That was Warren Pickering finishing in 3rd position today. And Brad, once again, Road Atlanta delivers. It's such a tricky circuit, I think, is what we're learning. That there's these spots are on this track which you can do time and time again. I mean, this is one of the circuits up there with probably Watkins and Spa, which you do laps and laps around, thousands of laps probably these drivers have done around this place. And yet still, there's a couple of corners that these guys still can't nail and still make mistakes around, and it produces an enthralling event.
Yeah, definitely. It's never disappointing regardless of the category of car that's raced here. And it really is a circuit of two halves. The way I look at it, it's kind of the first half is survival, and then the second half is where you try to get the moves done. And that's kind of what we saw tonight, with a lot of drivers dropping out of contention due to issues in that first sector. And then the second sector is where most of the moves they try to get them done, but as we saw, a few incidents there in 10A, 10B at the chicane. So it's not as easy as it looks down there. But yeah, even though it was a little scrappy this evening, there was still some great racing and some really unpredictable results, which will shake up the championship a bit. It's probably worth mentioning. Towards the end of the race, we actually saw quite a few drivers that were a lap down. They were still continuing, just trying to pick up those points, which is not something we see very often in the AMF series. So last two rounds being Circuit de Villeneuve in Montreal and Detroit Belle Isle. It's going to be brutal close to the season, so every point's going to count.
Yeah, we could see some big changes in the points, some big swings in the points for that. Of course, 2 45-minute races to round out the championship. I mean, I'm a massive fan of those two. Montreal, personally, my favourite driver circuit in all of motorsport. I just absolutely love making laps around that place. And then Belle Isle as well, I think is an awesome challenge. And I saw the Formula 3.5 championship yesterday on the Apex Racing TV. That was a pretty epic race. I think we're going to see a very similar one to that in a couple of weeks' time. So hopefully you've enjoyed this race. We certainly have up in the commentary box. If you have enjoyed it, please do leave a like on this video. We mega appreciate it. And also subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network. Loads of stuff coming out, a lot of which involving real-life drivers as well. So it certainly is worth keeping your eyes peeled for that. And also, if you wouldn't mind, please do check out Apex Racing TV. Might already be listening along on Apex Racing TV, but if you're not, do check that out, because we've got loads more stuff, Aussie stuff in the V8s as well, along with GT action, and yeah, absolutely everything. Single seaters, touring cars, of course. So certainly do give that a look as well, and a subscribe as well. And also please do check out our social media, where there'll actually be a rundown of today's event in our Facebook page and our Instagram and our Twitter as well. So certainly if you could give that a check out, then we would really appreciate that. But for now, from me, from Brad and from Scott, we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you in 1 week's time for the penultimate round of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship at Montreal. See you then.